I have a revelation, but before I share it, I feel like I need to give you some context. So I was sitting here having a conversation with my dad, who I have been estranged from my entire life. I'm telling him stories about my childhood, and I got to a story about the last time that I can recall him and I having an encounter was when I was in 8th grade, at my 8th grade graduation. And I was selected to read an essay that I've written. And the essay was titled, "I Never Fit In." And it's wild because I still recall this memory very vividly in my mind. But in the essay, I wrote about how my elementary school years, I was raised primarily in the suburbs, surrounded by predominantly white people, and always the only black person or one of very few. I stood out. And there was all these stereotypes about how black females act, right? The media portrays black women as angry and hostile and bitter. And so before even getting to know me, my peers would fear me or challenge me. And so I felt like I was always defending who I was to break down the stereotype of what they assumed that I was going to be, or how they assumed I was going to act. And so I would educate people by being myself. And then in 8th grade, I moved to the city of Philadelphia, which was predominantly brown people. And when I went to school, because I had been raised in the suburbs, the education, the academic curriculum was different. It was much higher. So my vocabulary and my tonality and my speech was more proper, and I knew more information than the majority of my peers. As a brown girl growing up, I had really long hair, like down my back long, and it's always been very straight and fine. And the majority of the brown girls that went to school with me or lived in my neighborhood, they had different texture hair, different curl patterns, some kinkier, just the hair texture was different. Also, my skin was a lighter skin. There was other skin colors, and I also dressed differently. I didn't wear the trendy clothes for the urban city of Philadelphia. So I didn't fit in that environment or culture either. Although my skin color looked similar to the rest of the brown people, my hair texture was different, my speech was different, my style was different. I was different, and so my essay went on to really break this down, that I never fit in. And at some point, I felt bad. And I started to feel alone, like I was just always kind of fighting or defending who I was, so much that I forgot even who I was. And that was a pattern that was set back in 8th grade. And it was something that I carried with me throughout adulthood, feeling alone, feeling ashamed for being different, but then also getting really exhausted from having to defend myself. So it was like this seesaw of like, I'm going to try to fit in because then I'll finally be accepted and I'll be loved and I'll have, someone that understands me. And I think that we get sometimes lost in that, trying to conform to the expectations of the norm. What's going on in your family, in your culture, in your religion, in society. Everybody is their own unique divine expression of God, Source, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, the divine, the creator. And it is our uniqueness that makes us us. And if we're always trying to fit in with what the crowd is doing, what the trend is doing, following the traditions of what's been done before us without even questioning if that's something that feels good. I'm not knocking following traditions, customs, religions, right? We all have our own path of what feels aligned. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that if we never give ourselves permission to actually check in with our own self, to inquire if the life that we're living feels good for us, or is it just fitting in with what we've been taught to do, or how to think, or how to dress, or how to be. And sometimes there's so much information, there's so much knowledge that's floating around, like everything is a teacher. And if we don't spend time to buy ourselves, to get to know ourselves, then we'll never be able to know ourselves. And as I was sharing this recall with my dad, I realized that I was still doing that. I was still operating from that program, even though I'm aware of it now. And I've been aware of it for some time now and been really intentionally peeling back the layers, shedding the layers of the things that I have learned, like shame and blame and guilt and fear and worry and doubt, and trying to fit in. I was never made to fit in. I was created to stand out, and so were you. We were created uniquely and specially made. And there's no other individual on this planet that is like you. And so if you don't do you and be you, then nobody can, nobody will. And we all came here for our own reasons, right? This human experience is a gift that we get to live. And over this last year, I've made some really dynamic shifts in my life that had a huge ripple effect with all of the people that I have been connected to. And this version of me that I am now is truly unrecognizable to myself, and I know most certainly to the people who I used to be around. I've been receiving a lot of projections of negative energy, of why, what's wrong with you, questioning my decisions, judging me for what my life looks like, condemning me, just a lot of evil eye energy. And it took a lot of strength and courage to reject that energy in protection of my own self, my own peace, my own happiness. And it's really saddening in a way that one doesn't show you love because they're afraid, or they're worried, or they're doubtful, or they're judging you because you're not acting or moving or making decisions in a way that they believe to be true. But this is exactly the work that I do, is helping individuals to break down the subconscious patterns, loops, and cycles that we operate from that are really hindering and keeping us in a box. if there's something about your life that feels dysregulated, you're experiencing disharmony, dissatisfaction, dis-ease in any part of your life, in your wallet, in your relationships with other people, in your relationship with yourself, in your relationship with your job, in your relationship with your experience with life, in any regard, it's your responsibility to do something different. Nothing changes if nothing changes. It's not just a cliche thing to say. It's the reality. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And we're all responsible for our own selves. But sometimes we can get stuck in these loops and patterns of doing the same thing the same way because that's what you've been taught. That's what you've been conditioned to believe. And so if you never pause to check in with your own self to actually discern whether the rules that you're following and subscribing to are actually from your own desire, or is your line of thinking and decision making coming from something that you've been programmed to believe and operate by? And just going back to the story about me and my childhood, I was taking a picture of myself because I just got some new hair. What y'all think? I love her. I think it is so beautiful. And my dad complimented me on my hair. And he asked me if I took any pictures of myself. And I was like, no, I haven't. And he was like, why not? I was like, I don't know. It didn't cross my mind. And so I started looking in the mirror. And I was just like, wow, this looks so beautiful. And I look so beautiful. And for a long time, I was afraid of saying that. I was afraid of acknowledging that because back in 8th grade, the girls that I went to school with, it was like I was getting hazed every day. You not really black. Black girls don't have long hair. You talk white. Who dresses like that? They would try to pull my hair, and it just was like constant torment. And every day it was like I was fighting, and I fought with my intellect. I was not a physical fighter. I would just educate them, like, not all black people look like you, and I am black, and this is how I talk. So black people, white isn't a language. So what does that even mean? And because I would say things that were truthful, then they would want to fight, put their hands up, and they like calling me out my name now. And it would be like a joke for me. What? You want to fight me because I just help you to realize something new? I don't understand why we're fighting. I'm not fighting you. You're fighting yourself. But the recall of all of those events, right, just made me realize just now, like, I was afraid of accepting myself, accepting my beauty, celebrating my beauty, allowing myself to bask in the gift that I was given. This beautiful body, this beautiful face, this beautiful hair, this me, all of me. And I wasn't born acting that way, thinking that way, right? That was a belief that was programmed as a little girl. And I was still operating from it. And because my life is different, there was a part of me that was almost shameful of showing myself and expressing myself, the happiness that I've found within myself that's not attached to anything or anybody. I'm not happy because I won an award. I'm not happy because I'm climbing the corporate ladder. I'm not happy because, I'm burning myself out to try to be the best mom or the best friend, or, all of these roles that I played in other people's lives. I gave so much of myself to them that I lost myself. And as I reconnect with the parts of me that I've been disconnected from, it's like getting to learn myself all over by rearranging, dissolving, and resetting my subconscious mind to its authentic programming, one that doesn't overthink, one that honors herself, one that is not trying, but allowing herself to be fully. That's my gift to you. You are special in every way. And if there's any part of you that feels like you don't belong or you're doing something wrong, if there's any part of you that you feel disharmonious with in your life, then I want to invite you to pause and begin to reflect on your life. How are you showing up to your life? How much time do you actually acknowledge yourself, what you're feeling in your body, in your belly, what the emotions that you're experiencing in your internal self, instead of continuing on the cycle or pattern of just ignoring yourself and subscribing to the familial norm. Actually honoring what you feel. If your stomach hurts, pause and not just accept like, oh, it hurts because I ate ice cream. Well, why are you doing that? If you hurt your body every time you eat ice cream, then why are you hurting yourself intentionally? If you're around somebody and your energy starts depleting, you feel tired, notice that. Be aware of that. And for me, I allow myself to be uncomfortable for so long, trying to fit in and be accepted to so many other entanglements that I was attached to, that I didn't allow myself to be happy for myself. And then when I began to choose to be happy for myself, that required me to reclaim my power, attention, energy, resources back to myself, my whole life rearranged. By integrating all those pieces, I'm gotten to a point where I'm grateful to have balance and be able to hold both. It's been challenging to let go of the version of me who I was, because letting go of that version of me also required me to set boundaries and say goodbyes to people, places, and things, but also hold space for celebrating that I feel good. It no longer is a mask, a show to perform for something or someone else. Like, I get to celebrate also that ending of those versions of me and those connections gave me space to celebrate a new beginning, to create space for me to actually feel good and not just look good. And it's so really, really dynamic and beautiful. Our life is ours. And when that light bulb clicks in your mind, it's like something happens when you realize and you awaken to the fact that your life is yours to live. And you get to make the rules. You get to set the tone. You get to decide and discern what feels good for your life. And the more that you can show up for yourself, the more that you can honor yourself and give yourself what you need and feel good, then life begins to shapeshift around to align everything for you. It's this really kind of magical experience when you can see how your inner world, your inner state, the way in which you feel, your energetic body, then manipulates and rearranges your outer world. There's a quote that says, "As within, so without, as above, so below." Our eyes are not just viewers to see life with, but they're also projectors for you to see life through. So you can view life and you can project life. There's billions of different ways to get to the top of a mountain. None are right or wrong. It's just a matter of what feels in alignment and good for you. You get to decide. I let go of the path that I can walk with intention toward the bright light.